Okay, so let's jump right in. What if I told you there was an actual blueprint for becoming completely fearless? Not by being tough or faking it, but by fundamentally changing the way you see, well, everything. That's exactly what we're unpacking today from this incredible ancient text. Right off the bat, the source text hits us with this unbelievably direct statement. It doesn't pull any punches, does it? The Buddha is making this massive claim. The root of all our fear, all our problems, isn't out there somewhere. It comes from one place, what he calls being foolish. And to really hammer this home, he uses this brilliant analogy. Picture a massive, secure mansion, totally protected, locked down, seemingly invincible. But right next door is this flimsy little reed hut. The text says a single spark from that flammable hut can burn the entire mansion to the ground. That spark, that's what unchecked foolishness is. It can take down even the most secure, well-put-together life. So you can see the stakes here are, well, they're sky high, right? On one side, you have the Balao, the fool, who is basically a magnet for fear, disaster, and trouble. And on the other, you have the Panito, the wise person, who is totally free from all that. The difference couldn't be clearer. And naturally, this all leads to the one big question. What exactly is this wisdom that acts like a complete shield against fear? Is it about having a high IQ or memorizing a bunch of facts? Well, the Buddha's definition is way more interesting, and honestly, it's a total game changer. Okay, so to really get these ancient terms, we have this special two-step process we use. Our first pass at translating Pandito gives us pretty much what you'd expect. Wise, learned, skilled. It's a good starting point, but it feels a little, static, right? Like it's just a quality you either have or you don't. And this is where it gets really cool. In the original Pali, the Buddha immediately pairs Pandito with another, much more dynamic word. This is where our second step, our deeper look, comes in. And that word is vimamsako. Our Niruti insight, where we look at the word's ancient root meaning, reveals it means an investigator, someone who actively examines and inquires. This is the whole key right here. Wisdom isn't a static thing you possess. It's the active process of investigation. A wise person is a fearless investigator of reality itself. So how do you become this kind of investigator? Well, lucky for us, the Buddha lays out a whole 4-part training manual. You need to get skilled in understanding the elements, the sense bases, dependent origination, and what's possible versus what's impossible. Let's start with that first one, the foundation. All right, this first skill is all about learning to see your world not as a collection of solid, separate things, but as a dynamic dance of fundamental components, or as they're called, elements. Now, when we do our first pass translation of that Pali word, dhātu, we get elements. And, your mind probably jumps straight to the periodic table, right? Little separate building blocks of stuff. But again, that's just scratching the surface. The word's original root meaning, it tells a much deeper, more profound story. And it completely shifts our perspective on what an element really is. So our Niruti insight here shows us that dhātu comes from a root that means to bear or to uphold. Think about that. These aren't just static parts. They're the dynamic, core properties and principles that are actively upholding your entire experience of reality, right now. They're more like the software running the show, not just the hardware. And the text asks the investigator to look at everything through this new lens. You start with physical properties, like hardness and wetness. Then you deconstruct perception itself, the eye, the shape, the act of seeing. You move on to emotional tones, your motivations, different states of being, all the way up to the ultimate difference between what's temporary and what's not. You learn to see every single moment as a mashup of these upholding principles. Okay, so once you get skilled at seeing these core properties everywhere, the other 3 skills click right into place. They show you how all these properties connect and work together to create your world. The second skill is all about the sense spaces. Think of them like the 6 doorways, where your inner world meets the outer world. It's about investigating the raw mechanics of how you perceive anything. Just like you see here, it's the eye meeting a form, the ear meeting a sound, all the way to your mind meeting an idea. When you see it this clearly, as just a simple, conditional meeting, you start to untangle all the confusion about where your experience is actually coming from. Third is the skill of dependent origination, which is basically like becoming a detective of causation. The investigator learns to see this exact chain reaction. It all kicks off from one tiny moment of not seeing clearly, or ignorance. And boom, that single moment triggers this whole cascade that, if you follow it, always ends in some kind of stress or suffering. Understanding this process intimately means you can see the chains starting to form and just choose not to play along. And finally, mastering those first three leads to the fourth skill, knowing what's possible from what is just flat out impossible. And this isn't magic, it's just a super deep understanding of cause and effect. The wise investigator knows it's simply impossible for a good, wholesome action to lead to a bad result, just like it's impossible to see something that's always changing as permanent. This clarity on the basic laws of reality gives them a kind of unshakable inner compass, which frees them from the fear of making a wrong move. Now, what's really fascinating is the reaction of Ānanda, the Buddha's attendant, who was there listening to this whole thing. After hearing this incredible, systematic breakdown of reality, the text says he was just completely amazed. He had to ask, what on earth is the name of this teaching? And the Buddha's response is awesome. He doesn't just give it one name. He gives it 5 epic titles. He calls it the Many Elements, the Fourfold Revolution, the Drum of the Deathless, and the Supreme Victory in Battle. But that 5th name, that one is maybe the most powerful metaphor for what this teaching really does. He called it the Mirror of the Dhamma. And that's the whole point, isn't it? The path to fearlessness isn't about gathering more information or puffing yourself up. It's about polishing a mirror, the mirror of your own mind, so that it reflects reality exactly as it is, without any smudges or distortions. And when you can see things that clearly, fear just doesn't have anywhere to hide. It just dissolves. And that just leaves us with a final question to think about. If you could hold up that perfectly polished mirror right now, a mirror that reflected the true nature of things, without any of your fears, your hopes, or your biases messing with the image, what do you think you'd really see?